Anyway,
We're talking about immersive in your quote here.
interactive engagement. But the fans, as we've evolved through the years, things don't look like. You're not going to go back to having Lance Russell and Dave Brown sit at a desk. You're not going to go back to having Gorilla and Bobby, Vince and Jesse, JR and the King. That style. The business evolves. But what I don't think evolves is immersive experience and engagement. The immersive experience in the Kaufman era, that angle, the lady on the front row, she was engaged, and everybody in the arena. I know I'm getting way down the rabbit hole. They live vicariously through that fan interacting, Rosie interacting with Andy and all that. Time goes on, different things. Nowadays, it's Bad Bunny, Logan Paul Walter Hauser getting his ass whooped. It's the world. Our business just continues to evolve, but the engagement is just going to keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper. I'll say this: if we don't, we're going to lose them. And I don't see us. The business is booming. Look at the numbers.
Well, here's what you said in 2014. Because of new media, new technology, and more tune in or more in tune fans than we've ever had, wrestling is poised for another boom like it experienced in the mid 80s and late 1990s. By the way, Jeff Jarrett said that in April of 2014. I think he was right. What we're going to deliver is a multi-platform, innovative brand that will engage fans in ways they've never experienced. It will provide a fresh perspective inside the business that fans have been clamoring for. Was your goal to shoot wrestling differently? Just present the television angles and the way it's positioned? And I mean, did you imagine by this point, we're talking 2014, did you imagine we'd all be wearing Oculus Rift type headsets and watching wrestling, or did you have a vision for that?
And look, I've still got some of these. I hope some of my ideas come to fruition.
So we're not going to tattle too much. I get it here.
Yeah, but we're not. But as far as I will answer your question, I don't think you reinvent the wheel on the mechanics of shooting the industry. I mean, you look at, I think Fox Sports on any sport they do. I mean, NFL football for sure, college football, booming numbers, NASCAR, they shoot it different. There's over, 60 cameras they have at a track, 60, 30 in each, one in each car. So that's 30 there. And then another 30 around the track. Anyway, they shoot things differently, but at the end of the day, they're still shooting the race. So you still got to shoot the squared circle or what have you. I don't think the mechanics of that. Now look, you can tweak it and you can do a couple of different things like that. And you can make this guy's entrance look different than this guy's entrance. But for the most part, I don't think you reinvent the wheel mechanically how you shoot it. The stories, absolutely. I think the storytelling has to evolve. It's like Andy Griffith to Three's Company, to Happy Days, to Seinfeld, or Cheers, to Seinfeld, to Succession. There's a number of shows you can show to there. Television evolves. Wrestling's got to evolve as well.
You would continue in the press release. Videos of the Jarretts previewing the new promotion attached to the hashtag "It's Coming" have generated more than 1 million views. Meanwhile, Jeff and Karen have been searching the United States and the international ranks in search of undiscovered talent. The response has been overwhelming, with more than 400 performers from across the globe already in the evolving GFW talent database. Quote, "The reality is we want to build a brand in which fans are watching our wrestlers evolve from day one and are truly invested in the lives of our talent in and out of the ring." Hey, AEW just started a show like that on TV. Anyway, who was on board day one? Like, was there a talent who says, "Hey, Jeff, saddle up, I'm in"?
I got a lot of calls, but I wasn't ready for that. Here's something that as I was reading the research and you touched on at the top. Hey, Jeff, what were the lessons that you were going to kind of bring forward? I had this conversation last night that relates to this. Time takes time.
Yeah,
it just does. And look, we were a Wednesday night. We've gone through that story, but just the building a brand isn't easy, and you got to have financing and you got to have money. and Toby wasn't going to just start writing checks to build a brand. So the It's Coming hashtags, I wanted to make every little thing we did put as much gas and as much noise on it as we possibly could. That quote about wrestling, the boom's coming. Conrad, do you know where kind of I said it, but kind of where I got all that from is so I got it from Hollywood. I got it from whether it was, I mean, multiple people in the television industry said things like, it's time for another boom. You kind of look at the landscape. Reality television, I don't want to say it was dead, but it was stale. The Duck Dynasties of the world and different shows, and so Idol, just different shows. But wrestling is kind of that thing that's always gone kind of up and then back down and up and back down, but different coats of paint and everything. But there was buzz, if you will, on the wrestling industry. And here's kind of another footnote that you kind of, and I want to make sure I get it right because it's either February or March, Conrad. A big thing happened in our industry that I said, how do I kind of add fuel to that fire? Because the television industry, at the end of the day, that's what me and Toby were going after. The whole goal of Global Force Wrestling was go get a TV deal, period. Now, I learned a lot along the way, and the climate and where UFC falls into this, and the politics at the highest level with ESPN and Fox Sports and Viacom and Turner and even AMC and the political jousting and all that kind of stuff. But the business as a whole, red hot in the 90s, it was just WWE in town. TNA had that run on Viacom. End of the day, we were still on, we weren't on MTV or VH1. We were kind of on the third channel in the Viacom family. Grateful for them, but it wasn't the top of the top. So how do we kind of, how does Jeff and Karen and Sully and the kind of the small nucleus, Brandon Baxter, was, and he had a day job, full-time day job, 60 hours a week, being a program director and an AM drive time jock. Small group. How do we continue to create noise and kind of, but the Hollywood feedback and everything? And I'm going to get to Dave Broom, but Conrad, is it March of 2014 when the WWE Network launched?
Yes.
Massive news in the entertainment industry. I'm going to shut up. Did you realize in that time, Conrad, hey man, he's always hitting singles and doubles and sometimes triples. This bad boy is a boom. It's and I look, it's gravitated and all that. But in 2014, what were your thoughts on the network coming out?
That it was a mistake to include WrestleMania and SummerSlam and Royal Rumble.
Okay.
Thought it was a home run idea. I thought it made a lot of sense. Cut that pay-per-view provider out. I mean, the reality is when they're charging $30 for a pay-per-view, they're getting $20.
Yeah.
I saw
they're getting 15.
Right. Yeah. My apologies. Here's an opportunity to just keep it all, but I knew that would mean more bottom line expense, but I still felt like your hardcore fans, they're going to pay for that year round, but you're still going to get a guy who doesn't really identify as a hardcore fan. He's not watching Backlash or Money in the Bank or Survivor Series.
Yeah.
But he'll get his buddies together, much like people would who aren't necessarily diehard football fans, and watch the Super Bowl. I know lots of people who don't watch a single NFL game, but then they watch the Super Bowl. And I think WrestleMania is kind of the same way. Like, I don't watch all the preliminary boxing events, but if Floyd Mayweather's fighting or Manny Pacquiao, I'm probably going to buy it.
Yep.
And I think WrestleMania is kind of the same way. And I just thought, man, they're leaving money on the table because the hardcores are going to buy SummerSlam. They're going to buy WrestleMania. They're going to buy Royal Rumble. And I think, boy, this sounds ugly, but the reality is they never met their projections. Not one time. They always said, we'll have this many subscribers. They never got there. And I always thought when George and Michelle were out, it was because of the way that thing was handled, where maybe they were saying one thing and Vince didn't want to hear it and it went the other way and ta-da. But
interesting.
I think it was necessary and I get it, but I think there should have been maybe tiers to it.
Yeah, not to go all in on the big four. I hear you, but my point was kind of
He was taking control. He was not just doing. He was the leader in pay-per-view for a long, long time, and to carve off one of your biggest revenue sources and bet on yourself took a massive set of balls.
and here was I'm the outsider. Look what wrestling is generating monthly. That's how I looked at it. WWE, Raw and SmackDown, and now the network. That pie is big, and
their international at that point was bigger than ever.
And so
which is why you wanted to call it Global Force, right?
Okay, you were going right. All of that is that there's a real opportunity, because I mean, Kevin K. I don't know if I ever told you this. He called me. I think it was middle of 2014.
Tell everybody listening to this who Kevin K. is.
Kevin K., president of Spike TV.
Okay.
And he heard I left, and Spike was. When did TNA go off Spike? Because it was right kind of in that contract was lapsing. And so it was a very super casual, hey man, what are you doing? Is Toby involved with you? Oh, he is. Okay. Well, listen, let's stay in touch. You got it, bud. How's your golf game? Great. How are the kids? Great. You spending more time on the East Coast or the West Coast? Oh, I'm more out West Coast right now. You know how I like this sunny weather. All right, pal, I'll chat at you later. But I say all that to say, I think the industry was poised for a new brand. I know they were in 2014. How were they going to figure out how it was going to come to fruition? Dave Broom, John Rich of Big and Rich, personal friend of mine, buddies. He was working with Dave Broom. Dave Broom's, he's got, I don't say claim to fame, but I mean, he's runs 25/7. That's the name of his production company. The Biggest Loser was one of his big shows. Several other shows. He partnered with The Rock on one way back when. Anyway, he's a production company. He reached out to me through John and said, hey, man, why don't you come out and let's talk about this? And he said, I'm more interested in kind of creating shoulder programming. I don't know much about creating wrestling content. And I'm like, well, that's what I do. And he goes, well, great. Let's try to kind of figure out what it's going to look like. So that was like a kind of a casual, let's dive into this. And, Dave met Karen, and, again, everybody was looking for that next reality kind of hit. But I mean, to create different programming, I always had my eye on, I want to create a next wrestling show. But there was, it's always going to be in kind of a programmer's mindset. How do we create more shoulder programming that can fit a half hour here, a half hour there, all that kind of stuff. So